You know that specific kind of exhaustion where your eyes feel like they're filled with dry sand? That was me. I was staring at a spreadsheet that hadn't made sense for 2 hours, nursing a latte that had gone cold roughly 40 minutes ago. I was sitting at a corner table in a coffee shop in Pioneer Square, one of those places with exposed brick and baristas who judge your milk choice. It was mostly empty. There were 4 other empty tables around me. So, when a guy sat down next to me, not across from me, but literally on the stool right beside mine, crowding my personal space, my first instinct was annoyance. Pure, unadulterated Seattle freeze. I didn't look up immediately. I just aggressively typed a sentence that meant nothing, waiting for him to realize his mistake and move. "He's not at the dentist," a voice said. It wasn't a question. It was a statement, delivered with a flat, terrifying calm. I stopped typing. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I turned my head. The guy was devastating. That's the only word for it. He looked like he'd been carved out of marble and then left out in the rain for a week. Wet, dark hair plastered to his forehead, a jawline that could cut glass, and eyes that were so bloodshot they looked painful. He was wearing a charcoal wool coat that probably cost more than my first car, and he smelled like rain and expensive scotch. "Excuse me?" I said, my voice sounding tinny in my own ears. He didn't blink. He just stared at me with this intense, heavy exhaustion. "Your husband, Adam, he told you he was at the dentist for a root canal, right? The specialist in Bellevue?" My stomach did a weird flip like I'd missed a step on a staircase. "Who are you?" "I'm Mason," he said. He leaned in, his elbow bumping my laptop. "And your husband has been sleeping with my wife, Elise, for 7 months." The world didn't stop. That's the lie movies tell you. The espresso machine kept hissing. A girl in the corner laughed at a TikTok. The world kept going, but the air in my lungs turned into concrete. "You're crazy," I whispered. I started reaching for my bag, my fight or flight kicking in. "I'm calling the police." "He's not at the dentist, Harper," Mason repeated, and hearing a stranger say my name made my skin crawl. "Check your shared calendar. Adam, dentist, 2 p.m. Right?" I froze. He knew the calendar entry. "And last Tuesday?" Mason continued, his voice lowering, turning rougher. "The networking dinner at the Metropolitan Grill? He wasn't there. He was at the Four Seasons, room 412. "Stop it," I said, but I wasn't moving. I couldn't move. "My wife is an attorney," Mason said, looking down at his hands. His knuckles were white. "She tells me she's working late on the merger. Adam tells you he's at the dentist. And right now they are sitting in a booth at Le Pichet, eating oysters and laughing about how easy it is to lie to us." "You're lying," I said, but the conviction was gone. I was just making sounds now. Mason turned his head and looked at me. Really looked at me. There was no malice in his eyes, just a deep, shared pity. "I wish I was," he said. "God, I really wish I was. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you." Mason didn't argue. He didn't try to convince me with words. He just reached into his coat pocket and pulled out an iPhone with a cracked screen protector. He unlocked it, 1111, and slid it across the scratched wooden table. "Watch," he said. I stared at the phone. It was a video file. I shouldn't look. I knew that if I looked, my life as I knew it was over. The version of Harper who had a happy marriage, a nice house in Ballard, and a future. She would die the second I pressed play. I pressed play. The video was shaky at first, shot from a distance, maybe through a car window or from across a street. It stabilized on a patio table. There was Adam. My Adam. He was wearing his navy casual blazer, the one I bought him for his birthday. He was leaning forward, smiling. Not his customer service smile and not the tired half smile he gave me when he came home from work lately. This was the smile he used to give me 5 years ago, the smile that made his eyes crinkle. Across from him was a woman. Blonde, sharp features, polished in that intimidating corporate way. Elise. In the video, Adam reached across the table. He took her hand. He brought it to his lips and kissed her palm. I felt bile rise in my throat. "Look at his wrist," Mason said softly. I squinted at the small screen. On Adam's wrist was a silver watch with a leather band. "The Tag Heuer," I whispered. My brain short-circuited. He told me he lost that. He said the clasp broke and it fell off while he was jogging 3 months ago. "He didn't lose it," Mason said, taking a sip of water from a glass I hadn't seen him order. "He keeps it at her place because she likes it." The video continued. Elise laughed, a head thrown back, genuine laugh. Adam reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. The intimacy of the gesture was so casual, so practiced. It wasn't the fumbling awkwardness of a first date. It was the muscle memory of a long-term relationship. "How long?" I asked. My voice wasn't whispering anymore. It was dead flat. 7 months, Mason said. "That I can prove, probably longer." 7 months, I repeated. I did the math instantly. 7 months ago was when our intimacy died, when he started stressing about the Q3 numbers, when he started sleeping with his back to me, when he started taking his phone into the bathroom for 40-minute showers. "I hired a PI 3 weeks ago," Mason said, tapping the screen to pause the video on Adam's adoring face. "I found a burner phone in Elise's gym bag. I didn't want to believe it either. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's like a puzzle where all the pieces finally fit." I pushed the phone back to him. My hands were shaking so bad I knocked over my empty latte cup. It rolled onto the floor with a hollow plastic sound. "Why are you telling me?" I asked. "Why not just leave her? Why blow up my life?" Mason picked up his phone and pocketed it. "Because I was tired of being the only one in the room who didn't know the joke," he said. His lip curled slightly. Not a smile, but a grimace of pain. "And I figured you deserved to know that while you're sitting here working, your husband is ordering the Sancerre for another woman." Mason left the coffee shop as abruptly as he'd arrived, leaving a business card on the table. "Call me when you're done denying it," he'd said. I sat there for 10 minutes. I couldn't breathe. My chest felt like it was wrapped in barbed wire. "He's lying," my brain screamed. "It's a deep fake. AI. That guy is a stalker. Adam loves me. We're just going through a rough patch. I needed to prove Mason wrong. I needed to prove Adam was at the dentist." I grabbed my phone and opened the Find My app. We'd set it up years ago for safety, but I never checked it. I felt guilty even opening it, like I was the one betraying his trust. The map loaded. The little blue dot representing Adam pulsed. He wasn't in Bellevue at the dentist. He was downtown, in the jewelry district. My heart hammered against my ribs. Wait, our 5th anniversary was in 3 weeks. The denial rushed back in, warm and comforting. Oh my God, he wasn't cheating. He was shopping. That's why he lied about the dentist. He was buying me a gift, a surprise. That video Mason showed me? It could have been old. Or out of context. Maybe that woman was a client and he was just being overly friendly. Adam was in sales. He was touchy-feely. I clung to this theory like a life raft. He was buying me jewelry. He was trying to fix us. I stood up, shoved my laptop into my bag, and ran out to my car. I needed to see him. I needed to catch him holding a velvet box so I could laugh in Mason's face. I needed to be right. I drove toward downtown, the windshield wipers slapping furiously against the gray drizzle. Traffic was a nightmare on I-5. I turned on the radio to drown out the silence, but every song sounded like a funeral dirge. I kept refreshing the map. The dot was still there. Goldman's Jewelers. "Please," I said out loud to the empty car. "Please just be buying me earrings." I parked illegally in a loading zone on 4th Avenue. I didn't care. I pulled my hood up and walked toward the jewelry store, keeping my distance. There was his car, the silver Audi, parked right in front. I hid behind a newsstand, feeling ridiculous, like a character in a bad noir film. 2 minutes later, the door to the jewelry store opened. Adam walked out. He looked good, better than he looked at home. He was wearing the blazer from the video, and in his hand he was holding a distinctive teal bag. Tiffany & Co. My knees almost gave out. Relief washed over me so hard I got dizzy. It's for me. He bought me Tiffany's. I was going to go home, cook him his favorite dinner, and forget the crazy man in the coffee shop ever existed. Adam got into his car. I ran back to mine, intending to follow him home. But he didn't turn toward the highway. He turned left, toward the waterfront. I followed, hanging 2 cars back. Maybe he's going to a florist. Maybe he's stopping for wine. He pulled into the valet circle of the Edgewater Hotel. My stomach dropped. No. I watched from across the street. Adam got out. He tossed the keys to the valet. He didn't look like a man running an errand. He looked like a man on a mission. He walked toward the entrance. And then I saw her. Elise. She was waiting by the doors wearing a trench coat and heels. She saw him and her face lit up, a genuine, blinding beam of happiness that I hadn't seen on Adam's face in years. Adam walked right up to her. He didn't look around. He didn't check over his shoulder. He handed her the teal bag. She squealed, actually squealed, and threw her arms around his neck. He caught her, spinning her slightly, burying his face in her neck. He hadn't bought the gift for our anniversary. He'd bought it for a Tuesday afternoon with his mistress. I watched them walk into the hotel, his hand firmly on the small of her back, guiding her like she was the most precious thing in the world. I was background noise. I was the ghost in my own marriage. I sat in my car staring at the hotel entrance, waiting for the tears. But they didn't come. Just a cold, hard clarity. Mason was right. The marriage was over. Adam had already left. He just hadn't told me yet. I couldn't go home yet. The house would be too quiet and I needed more ammunition. Mason had shown me the what, but I needed to understand the how. How had he pulled this off for 7 months? The late nights, the crisis meetings. I drove to his office building in South Lake Union. I knew he wasn't there, but I needed to confirm the lie structure. I pulled up to the security kiosk. Mr. Henderson was there, reading a paperback. He'd been the guard there for 6 years. I used to bring him Christmas cookies. I rolled down my window. "Hi, Mr. Henderson." He looked up, surprised. "Mrs. Harper, good to see you. Is Adam expecting you? I didn't see him badge in today." My grip on the steering wheel tightened. "Oh, I know he's not here right now. I was actually hoping to sneak into his office to leave a surprise on his desk for when he works late tonight. He's been pulling so many all-nighters lately, I wanted to leave him some snacks." Mr. Henderson frowned. He took off his reading glasses and wiped them on his shirt. "All-nighters?" "Yeah," I forced a laugh. "You know how it is, the Q4 crunch. He says he's been here until midnight at least twice a week." Mr. Henderson looked uncomfortable. He glanced at his computer screen, then back at me. "Mrs. Harper, I probably shouldn't say this, strictly speaking, but I don't want you worrying about him overworking." "What do you mean?" "Adam hasn't badged out after 5:30 p.m. in, well, looking at the logs here, since last April." April. 7 months ago. "Are you sure?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Maybe he tailgates someone out?" "Not every night, ma'am, and the cleaning crew would have mentioned it." He looked at me with kind, sad eyes. He knew. He didn't know what was happening, but he knew I was being lied to. "He leaves at 5 on sharp almost every day." "Right," I said. "He must be working from coffee shops." "Thank you, Mr. Henderson." "You take care now," he said softly. He hadn't been working late. Not once. All those nights I sat up waiting, reheating dinner, worrying about his stress levels. He was with her. I drove home. The house looked exactly the same as I left it. The craftsman porch, the blue hydrangeas I planted, the welcome mat. It looked like a home where 2 people loved each other. It was a lie. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The silence hit me like a physical blow. I didn't take off my shoes. I walked straight to the bedroom. I needed evidence. Not because I didn't believe Mason anymore, but because I needed to see the physical rot in my own house. I felt like a forensic investigator at a crime scene. I started with the nightstand. Breath mints. A book he hadn't opened in a year. Nothing. I moved to the closet. I checked his suit pockets. Nothing. He was careful. Then I saw it. The gym bag. It was shoved in the back corner of the closet, buried under some old blankets. He joined a fancy gym, the Equinox, 6 months ago. He told me never to touch the bag because his sweaty gear smelled gross. I dragged it out. I unzipped it. It didn't smell like sweat. It smelled like sandalwood and leather. There were no gym clothes inside, no sneakers, no towel. Instead, there was a bottle of Le Labo Santal 33, expensive cologne I'd never seen him wear. There was a box of condoms. We hadn't used condoms in 4 years. And there was a black leather notebook. I opened the notebook. It wasn't work notes. It was a log. Oct 4, 6 p.m., dinner at Pink Door. Oct 12, weekend conference. San Juan's. Oct 20, lunch. E's place. He was tracking his lies. He was project managing his affair. I flipped the page. A folded piece of stationery fell out. Expensive, heavy cardstock. A, counting the minutes until I see you. You make the world Technicolor. E. I felt like I was going to throw up. Technicolor. What a pretentious, stupid thing to write. I dug deeper into the side pocket of the bag. My fingers brushed against cold metal. A phone. An old iPhone 8. The burner. I sat on the edge of the bed. Our bed. The bed where we hadn't touched in months. And held the phone. It was locked. I tried his birthday. Incorrect. I tried our anniversary. Incorrect. I tried 12/34. Incorrect. I closed my eyes. What would he use? Something he wouldn't forget, but something I wouldn't guess. I tried her initial and his. 2315. A to 1, E to 5. Incorrect. Then I remembered the date in the notebook for their first trip. The San Juans, July 14th, 4th year. The phone unlocked. I opened the messages. There was only one thread. E. I scrolled up. It went back months. Adam. I can't wait to get out of here. She's talking about painting the kitchen again. Bored to tears. Elise. Just leave her already. You know you want to. Adam. I will. Just need to figure out the finances. I don't want her taking half my bonus. I gasped. He wasn't just cheating. He was strategically planning his exit to screw me over financially. I kept scrolling. Photos. Selfies of them in bed. In our car. A photo of me sleeping on the couch with a text from Adam. Lights are out. Calling you in 5. And then a text from 3 days ago. Elise. Does she suspect anything? Adam. Nope. She's clueless. I could walk in with lipstick on my collar and she'd probably just offer to do the laundry. It's almost sad. Almost sad, I said aloud. The rage finally hit me. It wasn't hot and fiery. It was cold. Absolute zero. He thought I was pathetic. He thought I was a prop. I pulled out my own phone. I didn't send the screenshots to myself. That would leave a digital trail he might see. I took high-resolution photos of every single text message, every photo, every timestamp on the burner screen. I documented my own humiliation. Click, click, click. I put everything back. The phone, the notebook, the condoms. I zipped the bag and shoved it back under the blankets exactly how I found it. I collapsed onto the floor of the closet, surrounded by his shoes. I felt stripped raw. I looked at the clothes hanging above me. My clothes, the beige cardigans, the sensible slacks, the uniform of a woman who was clueless and almost sad. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, half expecting a text from Adam with another lie about when he'd be home. It was a number I didn't have saved, but I recognized the area code. Mason. I know you probably went home. I know you probably found something. Don't spiral. The offer for a drink still stands. I'm at the alibi room." I stared at the screen. The sensible Harper, the wife Harper, would stay home. She would wait for Adam to return, confront him with tears, ask why, beg for couples therapy. She would try to fix it. But the wife Harper was clueless. I looked at the text again. Mason, the man who had blown up my life but who was also the only person telling me the truth. Mason, just thought you might want company from someone who isn't lying to you. I stood up. I wiped my face. "Okay," I said to the empty closet. "Okay." I walked into the bathroom and stripped. I turned the shower on as hot as it would go. I scrubbed my skin until it was pink, trying to wash off the feeling of being a fool. When I got out, I didn't reach for my sweatpants. I walked into the closet and pushed past the beige cardigans. I went to the back, to the garment bag I hadn't opened in 2 years. I pulled out a black dress. It was silk, low-cut with a slit up the thigh. Adam hated it. He said it was too aggressive and desperate. I put it on. It fit perfectly. I sat at my vanity. My hands were shaking, but I forced them to be steady. I applied dark eyeliner. Red lipstick. The shade Adam said made me look like a harlot. I curled my hair into loose, messy waves. I put on my highest heels. I looked in the mirror. The woman staring back didn't look like a wife. She looked dangerous. She looked like someone who had nothing left to lose. I wasn't dressing up for Mason. I was dressing up for myself. I was putting on armor. I checked my phone. 7:30 p.m. Adam wouldn't be back from the dentist hotel until at least 9 to read. I grabbed my keys. I walked out of the house without looking back. The alibi room was located in Post Alley, tucked away near the gum wall. It was dark, smelling of yeast and old wood, with flickering candles on the tables. It was the kind of place you went to have conversations you didn't want overheard. I spotted Mason immediately. He was in a booth in the back. He'd shed the expensive coat. He was wearing a navy button-down, sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms that looked like they actually did manual labor. He was staring at a glass of amber liquid like it held the secrets to the universe. I walked over. The clicking of my heels on the hardwood floor made him look up. His eyes widened. He sat up straighter. For a second, the exhaustion vanished from his face, replaced by something that looked a lot like appreciation. "You came," he said. "I did," I said. I slid into the booth opposite him. "And you were right, about everything." "The dentist?" "Tiffany's," I corrected. "He bought her a bracelet, or maybe a necklace. It came in a teal bag. He gave it to her at the Edgewater." Mason winced. "I'm sorry." "Don't be," I said. A waiter appeared. Bourbon, neat, a double. Mason raised an eyebrow. "Going straight for the hard stuff?" "I found his notebook," I said, my voice steady, "and a burner phone. He calls me clueless to her. He says it's almost sad how easy I am to fool." Mason's jaw tightened. A muscle jumped in his cheek. "Elise told me she was working on a brief this weekend. She's actually planning a trip to Napa with him next month." "We're pathetic," I said, laughing a short, humorless laugh. "We're the punchline." "No," Mason said. He leaned forward, his blue-gray eyes locking onto mine. The intensity in them made my breath catch. "They are the punchline. They think they're playing 4D chess, but they're just sloppy narcissists." The waiter dropped off my drink. I took a long swallow. It burned, grounding me. "So," I said, slamming the glass down, "we know the truth. What do we do now? Confront them? Scream? Divorce lawyers?" Mason swirled his drink. A slow, dark smirk spread across his face, the first time I'd seen him look anything other than devastated. "We could do that," he said softly. "Or we could have a little fun first." "Fun?" "They're out having the time of their lives," Mason said. "Why should they get to be the only ones? Forget them for tonight, Harper. Come out with me." I looked at him. really looked at him. He was handsome, broken, and offering me a lifeline. "Okay," I said. "Let's go." "Okay," Mason said, signaling the waiter for another round. "Let's assume we're not going home. Let's assume we are burning the ships." "Consider them burnt," I said, staring at the condensation dripping down my glass. "If I go home right now, I'll be sitting in the dark waiting for him to come back from his dentist appointment smelling like hotel soap. I can't do it. I physically cannot do it." "Good. Don't." Mason pulled a black moleskin notebook from his jacket pocket. Not the one I'd found in Adam's gym bag, obviously, but similar enough that it made my eye twitch. He clicked a pen. "Let's map it. If we're going to blow this up, we need to know exactly how big the blast radius is. You said you saw texts?" "I saw everything," I said, the bourbon warming my chest but doing nothing for the cold knot in my stomach. "July 14th, San Juan Islands." Mason wrote it down, July 14th. Elise told me she was at a CLE, continuing legal education seminar in Portland. She even brought back a voodoo donut box as a souvenir. It was empty, but she said she ate them on the drive. Adam brought me nothing, I realized. He said the conference was boring and the cell service was spotty. That's why he didn't call for 2 days. "What about August 22nd? Mason asked, looking up. "Elise's birthday." I frowned, digging through the mental trash heap of the last 6 months. "August 22nd. That was a Tuesday. Adam came home late, said he had a client crisis. He came home with... Oh my God. What? He came home with a slice of cake, red velvet. He said it was leftover from an office party." Mason let out a short, harsh laugh. "Elise's favorite. She probably ordered a whole cake to the hotel room, they ate it in bed, and he brought you the scraps." The humiliation was a physical thing, like a slap. "He fed me his mistress's birthday cake," I whispered. "I ate it. I told him it was delicious." "Don't," Mason said sharply. He reached across the table, his hand hovering over mine but not touching. "Don't shame yourself for not knowing they were sociopaths. That's on them. Give me another date." "September 4th, I said. "Labor Day weekend." He said he had to fly to San Francisco for a prep meeting for Q4. "Elise was visiting her sister in Napa," Mason countered. He scribbled furiously. "They were together. 4 days. That's when she stopped answering my texts entirely." We spent the next 45 minutes dissecting our lives. Every late night at the office, every gym session, every unexplained charge on the credit card I'd ignored. We built a timeline of deceit on a cocktail napkin. It wasn't just an affair, it was a second life. They had routines, they had favorite spots, they had inside jokes. "They aren't just sleeping together," Mason said, looking at the ink-stained napkin. "They're dating. They're in a relationship. And we're the roommates that pay the mortgage," I finished. The waiter dropped the check. Mason snatched it before I could reach for my purse. "So," he said, looking me dead in the eye, "Adam thinks you're at home, clueless, waiting to serve him dinner. Elise thinks I'm at home, wallowing, wondering why she doesn't love me anymore. They are currently at the Edgewater, probably ordering room service." "Probably," I said. "If you go home," Mason said, "you give them the power. You let Adam control the narrative. You let him walk in and lie to your face one more time. And if I don't go home, then tonight is ours," Mason said. His voice dropped an octave. "We take the night back. We do whatever we want. We drink, we dance, we scream at the ocean. We stop being the victims." I looked at my phone. 8:42 p.m. Adam would be leaving the hotel soon to maintain his cover. I held down the power button, slide to power off, the screen went black. "Let's get out of here," I said. We didn't stay at the alibi room. The air was too heavy there. We walked out into the drizzle, the post-alley cobblestones slick and black under the streetlights. "Where to?" Mason asked. He didn't put his coat back on. He just carried it, letting the rain soak his shirt. He didn't seem to feel the cold. "Somewhere loud," I said. "Somewhere I can't hear myself think." We ended up at a dive bar in Belltown, Shorty's. It was a chaotic mess of pinball machines, circus decor, and punk rock blaring at ear-bleeding volumes. It was the complete opposite of the sterilized corporate world Adam and Elise lived in. We ordered cheap beer and shots of Fernet. We stood by a pinball machine, the Addams family, and played with a manic intensity. "You're terrible at this," Mason shouted over the bass of a Clash song. "I'm focusing on hitting the thing," I yelled back, slamming the flippers. The ball drained. "Damn it!" My turn. He stepped up, his body brushing against mine. It wasn't sexual, or maybe it was, and I was just too numb to process it, but it was electric. The heat coming off him was startling. We drank more. We moved to another bar, a place with a sticky floor and a DJ spinning early 2000s hip-hop. We danced. Not the polite, swaying dancing I did at weddings with Adam. We danced like we were trying to shake demons off our skin. Mason was a terrible dancer, stiff and rhythmic in all the wrong ways, and it made me laugh. I laughed until my ribs hurt. I laughed until tears were streaming down my face, and I didn't know if they were happy or sad tears anymore. At one point, around 11:30 p.m., the adrenaline crashed. We were sitting in a booth at the back of the club, catching our breaths. The music was a thumping vibration in the floor. "He's home by now," I said, staring at a strobe light. "He's walking into the house. He's seeing that my car isn't there. He's calling me." "Let him call," Mason said. He was leaning back, arm draped over the booth, watching me. "Let him worry. Let him wonder if you are the one having an affair." "He wouldn't believe it," I said bitterly. "He thinks I'm a furniture piece." "Furniture doesn't have affairs." "You're not furniture, Harper," Mason said. He reached out and touched a loose strand of hair that had fallen into my face. His fingers lingered on my cheekbone. His skin was rough, warm. "You're vivid. You're the most vivid thing I've seen in 7 months." I leaned into his touch. I couldn't help it. I was starving for it. "You're drunk." "I am," he admitted, "but I'm also right." "What are we doing?" I asked, my voice barely audible over the music. "Is this revenge? Is this us just balancing the scales?" "Maybe," Mason said. His eyes dropped to my lips, then back up. "Or maybe we're just two people who survived a plane crash and we found each other on the island." "I like that," I said. "The survivors." "Come on," he said, standing up and offering me his hand. "I'm done with the noise. Let's go somewhere quiet." Mason's loft was in Pioneer Square, not far from where we'd started. It was in a converted warehouse. High ceilings, exposed brick, massive windows that looked out over the ferry terminal and the dark water of Puget Sound. It was beautiful, but stark. There were no throw pillows. No knickknacks. Just architectural models on a drafting table, rows of books, and a sleek leather couch. It felt like a showroom, not a home. "Welcome to the bachelor pad," Mason said, tossing his keys on the kitchen island, or the separated but living in denial pad. "It's nice," I said, walking to the window. The city lights blurred in the rain. "Very clean." "Elise hated it," he said, opening the fridge and pulling out 2 bottles of water. "She said it was cold. She wanted beige. She wanted live, laugh, love signs." I laughed, taking the water he offered. "Adam wanted modern farmhouse. He's obsessed with shiplap. I hate shiplap." "See?" Mason clinked his bottle against mine. "Incompatible." We stood by the window for a long time, watching the ferries cross the black water. The alcohol was fading, leaving behind a raw, exposed nerve ending. "I have to go back tomorrow," I said quietly. "I have to face him." "I know," Mason said. "I'm terrified," I admitted. "Not of him leaving. I know he's already gone. I'm terrified that I'll cave. That he'll smile that stupid smile and tell me I'm crazy, and I'll just believe him because it's easier." Mason set his water down. He turned me toward him. His hands gripped my upper arms, firm and grounding. "Look at me," he commanded. I looked up. His eyes were dark, serious. "You saw the texts," he said. "You saw the disrespect. You saw him hand her that teal bag. You cannot unsee that. You are not the woman who caves anymore. That woman died when I sat down at your table. Who am I then? I whispered. You're the woman who is going to burn his life down, Mason said, and then he kissed me. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't romantic in the way movies paint romance. It was desperate. It tasted like bourbon and grief. It was two drowning people grabbing onto each other for air. I grabbed the lapels of his shirt and pulled him closer. I needed to feel something other than the hollow ache in my chest. I needed friction. I needed heat. His hands moved to my waist, pulling me flush against him. I could feel the hardness of his chest, the rapid beat of his heart matching mine. For a moment, Adam didn't exist. Elise didn't exist. It was just this, skin on skin, breath on breath. We stumbled backward until my legs hit the couch. We fell onto it, a tangle of limbs. I straddled his lap, my dress hiking up. He buried his face in my neck, groaning something that sounded like my name. But then, he stopped. He pulled back, breathing hard, his forehead resting against mine. "Wait!" he rasped. "Don't stop," I said, clutching his shoulders. "Please don't stop." "Harper," he said, his voice ragged. "If we do this, if we sleep together tonight, it becomes about them. It becomes revenge sex. It becomes a reaction." I stared at him, my chest heaving. "I don't care." "I do," he said. He smoothed my hair back, his touch suddenly incredibly gentle. "I want you. God, you have no idea. But I don't want you to wake up tomorrow feeling like you just lowered yourself to their level. I want us to be better than them." I collapsed against his chest, the energy draining out of me. He was right, and I hated him for it, and I loved him for it. "Okay," I whispered into his shirt. "Okay. Stay," he said. "Just stay. Sleep here. Not for sex. Just so you're not alone." We went to his bed, a massive low-platform bed with gray sheets. We didn't undress beyond shoes and jackets. We crawled under the duvet, fully clothed. He spooned me from behind, his arm heavy and protective over my waist. "Mason," I whispered into the dark. "Yeah?" "Thank you." He tightened his grip. "Go to sleep, Harper. Tomorrow is war." Sunlight in Seattle is a rare, aggressive thing. It streamed through Mason's floor-to-ceiling windows at 7 a.m., hitting me directly in the eyes. For 3 seconds, I didn't know where I was. Gray sheets, smell of sandalwood, not the cologne Adam bought for Elise, but real, earthy sandalwood. A heavy arm draped over me. Then the memory of the previous day crashed down on me. The coffee shop, the video, the jewelry store, the hotel, the dive bar. I sat up, gasping. Mason was already awake. He was sitting in a chair by the window, holding a mug of coffee, watching me. He was wearing fresh sweatpants and a t-shirt, looking impossibly put together for a man whose life was imploding. "Morning," he said. His voice was gravelly. "Oh, God," I said, running a hand through my tangled, hairspray, crunchy hair. "I look like a raccoon, don't I?" "You look like a survivor," he said. He stood up and walked over, handing me the coffee. "Drink, black. You need the caffeine." I took the mug. My hands were steady. That was a surprise. "Check your phone," Mason said, nodding toward the nightstand where I'd left my purse. I picked up my phone. I took a deep breath and powered it on. It buzzed and buzzed and buzzed. 14 missed calls from Adam, 22 text messages. I opened the texts. "Where are you? Harper, I'm getting worried. Did you get in a car accident? Please call me. I'm calling the police." "Harper, seriously, pick up." "He's panicking," I said, feeling a cold, dark satisfaction. "He thinks I'm dead." "He thinks he lost control," Mason corrected. "Narcissists hate losing control. He doesn't care if you're hurt. He cares that you're not where you're supposed to be." I stood up, the silk dress wrinkled and inappropriate for the morning light. "I have to go." "Here's the plan," Mason said. He walked over to the kitchen island where he had laid out a notepad. "You go home. You don't scream, you don't cry. Tears are fuel for him. If you cry, he comforts you, and he wins. Indifference, I repeated his words from last night. Exactly. You are cold. You are efficient. You are packing a bag. If he asks where you were, you don't answer. Silence is louder than screaming. What if he denies it? I asked. He will. He's a salesman. He could sell ice to a polar bear. You have the photos, Mason reminded me. You have the timeline. You have the truth. He can gaslight all he wants, but he can't change the fact that you saw the burner phone. I nodded. I felt like a soldier prepping for deployment. One more thing, Mason said. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his own phone. I sent you a file. It's the video of them at the cafe. Save it to your cloud, just in case. Okay, I said. I walked to the door. I turned back. Mason was standing in the middle of his empty, perfect loft, looking alone. Will I see you again? I asked. You have my number, he said. A small, sad smile touched his lips. Call me when the dust settles. The drive to Ballard usually took 20 minutes. I made it in 12. I pulled into the driveway. Adam's Audi was there. The house looked ominous in the morning light, the windows like dark eyes staring at me. I checked my reflection in the rearview mirror. My eyeliner was smudged. My hair was wild. I wiped the makeup off with a spit-dampened tissue. I didn't want to look like I'd been out partying. I wanted to look like I was done. I walked to the front door. It was unlocked. I stepped inside. Harper? Adam's voice came from the kitchen. He sounded frantic. I didn't answer. I walked straight past the kitchen archway. I saw him in my peripheral vision. He was wearing the same clothes as yesterday, looking disheveled, holding his phone. Harper! He rushed out, grabbing my arm. Oh my God, where have you been? I've been calling you all night. I was about to call the cops. I looked at his hand on my arm. Then I looked at his face. He looked genuinely scared. It was a good performance. Let go of me, I said. My voice was calm, scary calm. He blinked, recoiling as if I'd slapped him. What, babe, you disappear for 12 hours. I'm packing, I said. I walked up the stairs. He followed me, his footsteps heavy and frantic. Packing? What are you talking about? Harper, talk to me. Is this about work? Did something happen with your mom? I walked into the bedroom. I pulled my suitcase from the top shelf of the closet. I unzipped it on the bed. It's not about work, Adam, I said, opening my dresser drawers. I grabbed handfuls of underwear, socks, t-shirts. I didn't fold them. I just threw them in. Then what is it? He was standing in the doorway, blocking the exit. You're scaring me. I know about Elise, I said. I didn't look at him. I kept packing. I grabbed a pair of jeans, a sweater. The silence that followed was deafening. It lasted 5 seconds, 10 seconds. Who? He said finally. His voice was higher, tighter. Who is Elise? I stopped packing. I turned to face him. Elise, I said clearly. The woman you've been sleeping with for 7 months. The woman you took to the Edgewater yesterday. The woman you bought a Tiffany bracelet for while I was tracking your location. His face went gray. Harper, you're hallucinating. I don't know what you're talking about. I was at the dentist. Stop, I said, just stop. I found the notebook, Adam. I found the burner phone in your gym bag. I saw the texts. She's clueless. It's almost sad. Remember that one? He froze. The color didn't just drain from his face, it vanished. He looked like a corpse. You went through my stuff? He whispered. Yes. That's an invasion of privacy, he shouted, suddenly pivoting to anger. It was so predictable, it was almost funny. You violated my trust. I violated your trust? I laughed. That's rich. I turned back to the suitcase. I'm leaving. You can keep the house. You can keep the lie. I'm done. You don't have proof, Adam said. He stepped into the room, his confidence creeping back. He was calculating now. He realized I was bluffing about how much I knew, or so he thought. "You're making this up. You're paranoid. You've been stressed at work and you're projecting." "I have photos," I said, reaching for my purse. "I took photos of every single text on that burner phone." "Show me," he challenged. He crossed his arms. "Show me these imaginary photos." I pulled out my phone. I unlocked it. I went to the Photos app. I scrolled to the bottom. The photos weren't there. I frowned. I refreshed the app. Nothing. The last photo was a picture of my latte from 3 days ago. "What?" I muttered. I checked the recently deleted folder. Empty. Then I saw it. A notification at the top of the screen. iCloud Restore Complete. My blood ran cold. "You're on my family plan," Adam said softly. He took a step closer. A cruel, smug smile touched his lips. "I got an alert yesterday afternoon that a new device, that burner phone, had been accessed. I realized I'd left it on, and then I realized you were the only one here." "You wiped it," I whispered. "You remote wiped my phone." "I restored it to a backup from 2 days ago," he corrected. "Technically. Glitchy technology, right? Shame you lost those, whatever they were." He loomed over me. "See? You have nothing. No proof, no texts. Just a crazy wife having a breakdown." He reached out to touch my shoulder. "Babe, you need help. You're imagining things. Maybe we should call Dr. Evans? Get you something for the anxiety?" Gaslighting. Pure distilled gaslighting. He was trying to make me question my own reality. He was trying to erase the last 24 hours. For a second, I panicked. He was right. I had no physical proof. If I went to a lawyer, it was his word against mine. If I told our friends, he'd paint me as the unstable one. Then I remembered. I didn't need the photos. I slapped his hand away. "Don't touch me," I said. "Harper, be reasonable," he said, using his VP of sales voice, calm, condescending. "You're hysterical. There is no Elise. I was at the dentist. Look at my teeth." He bared his teeth like a feral dog. "August 22nd, I said. He blinked. "What?" "August 22nd, I repeated, locking eyes with him. "You brought me a slice of red velvet cake. You said it was from an office party. It was her birthday cake. You ate it in bed with her at the Fairmont." He flinched. That's coincidence." "July 14th, I continued, stepping toward him. "San Juan Islands. You told me the cell service was bad. You texted her. I can't wait to get out of here. She's talking about painting the kitchen again, bored to tears." Adam stumbled back a step. His back hit the doorframe. "You memorized them?" he whispered. "I have a photographic memory for bullshit, Adam," I lied. I didn't have a photographic memory, but the trauma had seared those words into my brain. "And here's the kicker," I said, enjoying the terror in his eyes. "I didn't stay at Riley's last night. I wasn't wandering the streets." "Where were you?" he asked, his voice shaking. "I was with Mason." The name hit him harder than the texts. His knees actually buckled. He grabbed the doorknob to steady himself. "Mason!" he choked out. "Mason," I said. "Elise's husband, the landscape architect, the man whose life you helped destroy." You met him?" "Met him?" "We spent the night together," I said. I let the implication hang there. I didn't say we slept together. I let him imagine it. I let him imagine me doing exactly what he had done. "You cheated on me?" he accused, his face twisting into hypocrisy. "I leveled the playing field," I said. "And guess what? He told me everything. The teal bag, the timeline. The fact that Elise is facing an ethics review at her firm because Mason sent the evidence to her partners this morning." Adam looked like he was going to vomit. He wouldn't." "He did," I said. "And you're next. Mason knows people at your firm. He knows about the expense account you used for the hotel rooms. Client acquisition, right?" Adam slid down the door frame until he was sitting on the floor, his head in his hands. The confident, arrogant man was gone. He was a puddle. "Harper, please," he sobbed. I can fix this. It was a mistake. She meant nothing. I was weak. She meant nothing, I scoffed. You told her she made the world technicolor. He looked up, tears streaming down his face. I was just saying that. It's a line. I love you. No, I said, zipping my suitcase. You love having a wife. You love having a maid. You love having a safety net, but you don't love me. I grabbed the handle of my suitcase. Move, I said. He scrambled out of the way, still crying on the floor. I dragged the suitcase down the stairs. The wheels bumping on each step sounded like a gavel banging, done, done, done. Adam chased after me, but he stopped at the front door. He was barefoot, wearing his wrinkled clothes, looking small. Harper, don't go. We can go to therapy. I'll cut her off. I'll do anything. I opened the front door. The rain had stopped. The air smelled like wet pavement and freedom. I walked to the driveway. A gray Subaru was idling at the curb. Riley. I had called her from Mason's bathroom while he was making coffee. I told her everything in a 3-minute whisper shout. She had screamed, I'm coming to get you, and hung up. I threw my suitcase into her trunk. Harper, Adam yelled from the porch. You're making a mistake. You're throwing away 5 years. I turned around one last time. I'm not throwing it away, I called back. I'm returning it. It was defective. I got into the passenger seat. Riley didn't say a word. She just reached over, squeezed my hand so hard it hurt, and peeled out. I watched the house shrink in the side mirror, my hydrangeas, the porch swing, the man I thought I'd grow old with. I waited for the grief. I waited to feel heartbroken. But as we turned the corner and the house disappeared, I didn't feel sad. I felt numb, a clean, sterile numbness, like a limb that had been asleep for years was finally waking up, pins and needles and all. You okay? Riley asked, eyeing me warily. No, I said, but I will be. Update. 3 months later, I'm writing this from a studio apartment in Capitol Hill. It's the size of my old walk-in closet. The radiator clanks like a dying robot, and the view is a brick wall. I love it. It's mine. I pay the rent. I bought the ugly yellow rug. There are no secrets here. The last 3 months have been a blur of billable hours and legal pads. Mason wasn't bluffing. He followed through. He sent the evidence, the burner phone data he had, thank God he had copies, the receipts, the PI report, to Elise's law firm. Apparently, sleeping with the spouse of a client's competitor, Adam's company and her firm had a conflict of interest clause regarding vendors, was a massive breach of contract. Elise was invited to resign. She is currently unemployed and, according to Mason, living in a sublet in Tacoma. Adam didn't get fired, but he might as well have been. Mason knew a guy on the board of Adam's company. They audited his expenses. Turns out, expensing the Edgewater as client dinners is fraud. He was stripped of his VP title and moved to a back-office role in compliance. He took a 40% pay cut. Our divorce is messy. Adam is fighting for the house. I told my lawyer, let him have it. I don't want the house. It's haunted. I see Mason. We didn't jump into a relationship. We're smarter than that. We're both wounded animals licking our wounds. But we meet for coffee every Sunday. We go for walks. Last week we went to a movie and held hands. It's slow. It's quiet. It's real. Last night, Mason and I were at the Pink Door for dinner. It was the first time we'd gone to a nice place since the night we met. We were laughing about something stupid, Mason's attempt to bake sourdough bread. When the mood in the room shifted, I felt it before I saw them, Adam and Elise. They were being seated at a table near the kitchen, the worst table in the house. They looked miserable. Elise looked tired. Her roots were showing. She wasn't wearing the power suit anymore. She was wearing a frumpy sweater. She was looking at the menu with a scowl. Adam looked aged. He had gained weight. He was tapping on his phone, ignoring her. They weren't the glamorous couple from the video anymore. They were two people stuck together by circumstance, bound by the wreckage they created. The thrill of the affair was gone, replaced by the reality of bills and resentment. "Look at them," Mason whispered. I looked. Adam looked up. He saw me. His eyes widened. He looked from me to Mason. He saw Mason's hand resting on mine on the crisp white tablecloth. For a second, I thought he would come over. I thought he would make a scene. But he didn't. He just looked defeated. He looked at Elise, who was snapping at the waiter, and then back at us. The envy on his face was palpable. He wasn't jealous that I was with someone. He was jealous that we were happy. "Do you want to leave?" Mason asked, his voice protective. I looked at Adam one last time. I felt absolutely nothing. No anger, no hate, just a mild curiosity like looking at a bug under glass. "No," I said. "I ordered the lasagna. I'm eating it." Mason smiled, a real smile, one that reached his eyes. "That's my girl." I turned away from my ex-husband. I turned toward the man who had sat down next to me in a coffee shop and handed me the truth in a shattered iPhone. I leaned across the table and kissed him. It wasn't a desperate kiss this time. It wasn't for revenge. It wasn't for an audience. It was just for us. The worst day of my life turned out to be the admission price for the best one. And honestly, I'd pay it again. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here.